Welcome to Morning Grounds, Morning Rounds, Stony Brook Medicine's video series, where we engage in candid conversations with Stony Brook Medicine colleagues on key initiatives, institutional updates, and expert insights on critical topics. Today, we're joined by Dr. Raymond Bergan, the newly appointed director of Stony Brook Cancer Center. Dr. Bergan brings decades of experience leading nationally recognized cancer programs and pioneering breakthroughs in medicine. In this conversation, he shares bold ideas for transforming cancer care, expanding access to clinical trials, and driving research that changes lives. So, grab your coffee, settle in, and let's get started. Welcome, Dr. Bergan.
Delighted to be here.
Thank you so much for joining me. Maybe we can start, if you could just walk us through a little bit of your professional journey. What are some of the highlights, and how did you get engaged in both medicine and research, and how did you get here?
I'm first generation. I come from a very humble background, and in fact, SUNY Buffalo gave me my first opportunity to enter the world of academia and medicine, and I majored in biochemistry, and I just loved it. I fell in love with it. And while other people struggled with organic chemistry, I read it, and it was like poetry to me, and enjoyed it. And so was given that gift of that type of mind. And as my career developed, I asked myself, well, how can I use this? And decided that I should apply it to medicine and taking care of patients. So went into medicine, and when you're in medicine, as you very well know, you decide surgery versus, non-surgery, and you don't want me operating on you. And I went into internal medicine, and I was very attracted to patients with cancer because I figured, well, these are the people who need a good doctor, and I want to be a good doctor, and I want to take care of them. So I was drawn to those patients. And then as I started taking care of those patients, I realized that they need better therapies. And then I went through this process of, well, where do they come from? Well, they come from research, and who does it? And so at that point, I decided that I was going to link my physician part of myself with back to my love of research, applied to a fellowship at the National Cancer Institute where I could link those two. And then, the rest, as they say, is history. And, I think the second part of the question is, how does that inform, and how did that bring me here? And I know some of our other questions would do a deeper dive into that. But, it's about fit. You are looking for someone like me who truly loves what they do, who can link those two elements and use it to enhance the care that we give our patients and the advances that we bring. And of course, coming back to the SUNY system and its mission is serving people and educating people from all walks of life is very attractive to me.
That's great. And, I love the fact that all aspects really started with the fact that you're interested in what's best for the patient,
yeah, and
how to save the patient. And, from my perspective, certainly that describes your professional life extremely well.
Oh, thank you.
You had a lot of leadership positions, other universities, cancer centers. Tell me a little bit about your leadership philosophy as you embark on this really significant leadership position in our cancer center.
Yeah, and I think part of that philosophy is how I feel, and the primary feeling is I feel honored to be here. I feel honored to be in this position, and other leadership positions I've been in. I truly feel honored because our leaders get selected, and they're selected by typically people above them that see high value in that person. So I take that seriously. It means there's a lot of trust in individuals who I report up to now and in the past. And that same trust goes for individuals that you're responsible for leading. And so, I consider that my job is to there's many components to it, but to look out for their benefit and to help them. So And that comes across in my day-to-day life. I feel honored and to be in this position, and when I interact with people, it comes across that I care about them and want to help them. I think and you've probably heard the saying there are lumpers and splitters, and I tend to be a lumper, and I say, well, there's good leaders and bad leaders, and of course there's a spectrum, but the bad leaders are people who use that position to help themselves, and I'm not, and I aspire to be a good leader, and those are individuals that truly look at their responsibility as for the people they're responsible for leading, and put them first and then put themselves second, and I endeavor to do that. I think the other characteristic in philosophy is, if you will, is lead by example, and show up to meetings, show up on time, show up prepared, meet deadlines. We all get bombarded with deadlines, and some of them are not important, but many of them are. And identify the important ones and meet them, and do due diligence. And I think that the final broad component is vision. People look to leaders for global guidance. Where are we taking this institution? What broad decisions should we make, and why is that? And of course, part of it is communicating, which we are doing here now. And then of course, there's a long list of honesty, integrity, being there for individuals, being available. And I'll just use one anecdote example. Last night I was on the phone to 11 o'clock at night, not an ideal time, but someone needed guidance and input, and, wasn't that we scheduled it. It happens. And as leaders, I was happy and honored to be there, to be called upon at that time, and certainly didn't say, well, this is a bad time for me, can't happen. So just as a little example, but no, thank you for that question.
Great. Thank you. Tell me, let's shift to the topic of cancer, because of course you're an eminent oncologist and cancer scientist. What do you see as sort of the most exciting opportunities and the most urgent issues facing cancer care today?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think they're different questions, but critically related. I think the opportunities we now have the tools and the understanding to understand this disease, which is not one disease. Breast cancer is not prostate cancer, is not colon cancer, and someone at risk for breast cancer has very different biology from, someone who has advanced breast cancer. So these are all different biological and medical components, and each of them is inherently complex. And, just thinking of risk, genetics, understanding the 2.6 billion base pairs in our genes is super, super complex. But we now have the ability to do that. We've all heard about AI. But it's a powerful tool that can help us understand that. So I think, we have lots of opportunities to now understand cancer. We are now talking about it in public. In the 60s and 70s, it was, even when it was mentioned as the C word, and mostly it was mentioned in back rooms. And now we openly talk about it, that I have cancer, I went through that, they're going through that, let's rally around them. And that's good. So these are all very, very powerful advances and advantages we have now in bringing them together, and certainly in understanding the complexity of cancer and applying it at the individual patient level. We can now do that, and we are increasingly doing so. Some of the challenges we have right now are dealing, we're not supposed to say politics, but dealing with the politics and the change in the opinion of, who we are as researchers and who we are as academic researchers. And, we're being isolated and targeted and pillarized, and we don't do a good job of communicating who we truly are. And if we did that, people would anyone that understands who we are on the street, they love what we do. They love what you do. You take care of the whole broad system that provides wonderful health care for people, and that is a good thing. And to take the advances we have from the bench into the clinic and help people is a good thing. And to have that being subjected to the current politics is a big challenge. So I think what people like you and I need to do is communicate that, and communicate that the right way to look at it is just as I have articulated.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think communication of what we actually do and what we actually care about, what we're trying to achieve, is so important to get and to maintain the support of the public, which really is what it's all about. That's why we're here. So that's great. Now, you talked a little bit about our capabilities now, and you have had some really groundbreaking research trials on early phase chemo prevention. Tell me a little bit about that, and tell me if that's something that you see as part of the future for cancer care at Stony Brook.
Yeah, I love that question, and I will warn you, you're going to have to tell me to be quiet, because I'm going to get on my soapbox, but it truly is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And I will be more broadly, I will address it more broadly than just chemo prevention, but we're now seeing a decline in rates from cancer death. And the main driver of that is, yes, there's lots going on with precision medicine, that's contributing to that for advanced disease. The main driver of that is early detection of cancer, which falls under prevention, mainly being driven by lung cancer, which is our biggest cause of death, and then our success in decreasing rates of smoking. So all prevention strategies, very committed to prevention. It's a hard thing to execute. Someone gets in a car accident, and we see these true heroes come in and rush in and cut them out of the car and save them and put them in the ambulance. But what we don't pay attention to, and we're both parents, and I'm sure we both sat in the car and said, "This car is not moving till your seatbelt clipped in," and we it comes across as kind of dorky, but it saves more lives than the people who are heroes. So it's a hard thing to execute, but it's really important. But getting to chemo prevention, yeah, I was honored to create and lead a large program. Learned a lot from people. Very committed to the field. And I think one of the concepts that our group developed is local therapy. So we treat most diseases and cancer is a great example, is you take a pill, you take an injection, and the therapy is systemic. But we have these organs, okay? Take breast as an example. Okay, well, it's part of the body, but it's a limited organ. So if that organ is just at risk, we can target our therapy to that. And I love breast as an example because most people don't realize it's a skin appendage. It embryologically comes from our skin. So how do you treat a problem of the skin? Well, you put some cream on it. Well, we actually conducted a clinical trial where we put a derivative of tamoxifen on the breast. It got absorbed into the breast and had the same effect. I use breast as an example because, people are surprised by that. But, we can access the colon by pill. Locally, we can access the lung by inhalation. Breast, I gave an example. Skin, we already do that. So local therapy for at-risk is very powerful for the field, and it's something I'd love to see us implement.
That's great. And of course, local therapy presumably is likely to reduce the systemic side effects.
It's exactly what it does. And that's been a major limitation for, prevention is you want to do good and not do damage. A very good point. Yes.
You mentioned the term precision medicine just now, and I wonder if you could explain that a little bit to the people who might be viewing this and what you see the role of precision medicine is in cancer care at Stony Brook.
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's when people talk about precision medicine, they talk about the future, what's coming. And in fact, we are doing it now, and we have been doing it. Clearly, as we go along, we do it with increased refinement. But, even looking backwards, we've looked at patients and what can they tolerate? What's their performance status? Can they get in and get the treatment? Do they have the family support to do that? And we tailor the therapy to that. And of course, when these days, when people say precision medicine, they don't think about those things. They think about, some of the more glitzy, shiny stuff, which is very cool, doing genetic and molecular analyses, and we're increasingly able to do that. And so that is the past, current, and future of cancer therapy, and in fact all of medicine. So it has great power, and I could go on, but I think I should stop.
This is fascinating, and I would certainly love to be able to continue these conversations, as I know we will. But let's shift gears a little bit and talk about it from the patient perspective. Cancer care sometimes is described as a journey. How do you think we as an organization can make that journey less difficult, less arduous for our patients and their families?
Just help them navigate the system. And, you and I live and breathe the hospital. We know the terminology. We know its complexities. We know what it means to check in, to get a test, to do this test before you do that test, and what it means and what the implications are. And then we can interpret the results. We can access the results. But if you're not trained in that area, you have no idea what it means, what's important and what's not important. And and then an analogy that's coming to mind is, we all used to use maps to drive, and, you twist the map and you get in an argument. And now we just, we punch something in the GPS and we drive and we listen to it and it tells us exactly where to go. So, we need, I think the best way we can help people to navigate the system is to provide navigation. And we have people that are called navigators. And, we've all heard the term, well, there's an app for that. And, I think the answer is to integrate that. So to provide people a map of where to show up, when to show up, how to get there, what to do next. And then, if you have a problem, this is, you go down this road rather than that road.
Right. Oh, that's great. And hopefully we can get there. Tell me a little bit about some of the role you see for the Cancer Center in partnership with local groups, whether they be advocacy groups or tech companies or local clinics, the community, because I think that community tie is so important to all the care we deliver, but especially cancer care.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you focusing on cancer, and I live and breathe and think about that, but it definitively applies to all care. And, I think in that sense, cancer can serve as a model for that, but absolutely, absolutely critical. And, why are we here? What are we doing? Who are we serving? Well, ultimately, we're serving people in the community. Well, what community? Well, the fact is it's that community, and this community. And they're different communities made of different people that, have different viewpoints, that live in different places. Hence the advocacy groups to help us understand. We can look at a map and say this. And they're like, well, yeah, but these people think this way, and they have these viewpoints and these problems. And so working with those advocacy groups to help us understand the people is in their needs is absolutely critical. And then, of course, having a footprint there and interacting with them directly, and of course through the advocacy groups. I don't know why I'm having a problem with that world, but bringing that forward to us is absolutely critical. And then tech companies. The advances. I mean, this room is full of technology, and, they took our cell phones away, and, for this conference so they wouldn't ring, but we're critically connected. And the advances that we give today that are cutting edge medical advances, came out of minds and came out of benches and then went through the biotech industry to develop. They're all connected, and academia is the engine that drives that. So intimately connected.
That's great. And again, a perfect segue to my next question, which is, one of the strengths of an academic center, as you know, is bringing discoveries from the lab to the bedside. Tell me a bit how you see that accelerating innovation, and in particular, how does that interact with the educational process, fellows, students, residents?
Yeah, they're just intimately related. And in my mind, I'm creating a Venn diagram, but another way to look at it is within the cancer center, we have associate directors of education, we have associate directors of basic research, associate directors of clinical research, and it highlights the importance and how they're integrated. And, we talked about the importance of research and the treatments that we give today that are standard of care. Yesterday, they were experimental, that we were testing in humans. And before that, it was just a twinkle in someone's eye who took it and said, I think this has value, and pushed it forward. So that's the research component. But the education component, you're highly educated. I'm highly educated. The individuals that take care of the people today, they're highly educated in their different areas. And that's because someone invested time and money to educate someone like you and someone like me. And now, we are paying it forward. We're educating the next generation. And so that's how we will continue to have an educated workforce. But that's logical. The other part of it is the fact of the matter is people love having students. Okay. And I say this jokingly, but it's true. I love having students because they ask me questions that I can answer. Mm-hmm. And then I love having students because they ask me questions. I'm like, wow, I never thought about that. I have no idea. And and they create ideas. So, professionally, they're integrated and part of who we do. And then they also, bring joy to our lives.
It's great. I share your enthusiasm 100%. 10 years from now, what headline would you love to see about the Stony Brook Cancer Center?
Yeah, I can answer that in one line. The Stony Brook Cancer Center, an NCI designated cancer center where you want to go for your care. And I want that in not so much a headline written somewhere, but a headline written in people's minds and hearts, that they say, this is where you want to go to get care for you and for our family.
I like that headline, and I endorse it. As a sort of a final bit, what would you like all the people watching, your patients, your colleagues, staff here and outside of Stony Brook Medicine, to know about how you view your role in this process?
Yeah, so my role in this process isn't about you. It's not about me. It truly is about everyone that they say you and I are responsible for or for helping. And, we've heard the term, oh, it's a team, and it comes across as it's the pat saying. I actually believe it's true. And so you and I are sitting here right now doing something very important. We're communicating. As we speak, there's someone, likely a nurse, up on the floor giving someone the medicine. And if that dose is not enough, the patient won't be cured. And if the dose is the wrong dose, it could do harm to the patient. So what they're doing right now, and I know there's someone doing it, and probably hundreds of people doing it right now as you and I are doing this. They're up there doing that. Whose job is more important, right? And you can't do that. What you do is important. What I do is important, and what they do is important. And all together, it's what we do.
I love the fact that you, again, bring it right back to what is the most important to help that individual patient. And it's very similar to the way I view my role, which is to make the work that everybody does to deliver patient care or to improve patient care in research or education or quality improvement or making sure the floor is clean or what have you, that much better, that much easier, so that they can focus in on the most important things. So thank you for that. Well, it is a pleasure to talk to you, and I thank you for joining us. Again, I think you are just a paradigm of what we at the State University of New York can do. You got your education here, you've had an incredible academic career, and now you're in this really important leadership position that can mean the difference in people's lives. So thank you.
Thank you.
So that wraps up today's episode. I thank you, Dr. Bergan, for sharing your vision and your passion for advancing cancer care. Your leadership promises a future where innovation, collaboration, and compassion define every patient's experience. We look forward to seeing these bold ideas come to life at Stony Brook Cancer Center. And to all the members of the Stony Brook Medicine community, thank you for your continued dedication to the discovery, education, and highest quality patient care. Until next time, keep the coffee brewing and innovation flowing at Stony Brook Medicine.